The Labour Party is working on plans now to introduce citizens' assemblies if the party gets into power. Long story short, this will be a collection of the great British public, and they'll be getting involved, debating, looking at evidence, making recommendations, etc. It could be anything, really, from housing, devolution stuff, constitutional reform, so on and so forth. Now, in Ireland, they have these citizen assemblies already, and what a treat for you, ladies and gents at home, because I have not one but two UK-Irish dual citizens on my panel tonight. What do you make of these citizens' assemblies?
I think they're very, very dangerous indeed, because they're a means of undermining our representative democracy. They're used in Ireland, indeed, and as they will be here, as a means whereby the powers that be can manipulate opinion. The people who end up on them and are willing to give the time to them are normally committed to a particular side in a debate. And they are there, as the Irish say, they prepare the ground for change. But that's the change that the powers that be want to see achieved anyway. And they move in a particular direction. They undermine Parliament. And I will just say, we did have a meeting of the biggest citizens' assembly that we've ever had in this country in 2016. We did. And Sir Keir Starmer wouldn't accept the result because he didn't like it. So, let's be honest.
What's that about? Forgive me, I'm not sure what you're going to.
This is anti-democratic.
He's on about when people turn out and vote Brexit.
This is anti-democratic. And it also shows, in my view, that it's a distraction because Labour doesn't have any policies. So let's see what their policies are rather than, when, all right, fair enough, we get closer to an election, they have to have a manifesto. I'm not saying they have to have all their policies out on show today. But we need to see what Labour's policies are. This is not a policy. This is a way of not talking about policy and kicking it all the other side of the general election.
So it would be a disaster, would it?
Well, where to start with there? This is where the consensus ends, OK? Because what we're talking about is the fact that Keir's new Chief of Staff, relatively new, Sue Gray, has given quotes to a book coming out at the end of the month, and in it she talks about importing the idea of citizens' assemblies from Ireland. And I think, actually, there's a different way of looking at this, which is a lot of listeners and viewers of this channel are interested in politics that listens more to people, that talks down to them less, right? And I think we should look at this idea, which I don't know the detail of. I look forward to seeing more of it when the book comes out and talking to Sue Gray if I have a chance. We should look at this as select committees that people can get involved with themselves. Ultimately, as it's happened in Ireland, it still has to come back to government, but people want to be involved more and they don't want stuff done to them. And that's why there's Keir Starmer has spoken about, and ignoring for now Daniel's jibe that Labour hasn't got any policies, because we could do an hour on the policies we have got. But Keir Starmer is into politics that does less to people and asks them more. And ultimately, it still has to come back through the Parliament, common laws and the government. I think it's interesting because people are in a way fed up with the political class not listening enough.
But then, Sarah, help me understand a few things, because already when we're trying to create new laws and all the rest of it, often we do have a consultation period, don't we? So people, your average Joe, can get involved and give their feedback. So the average Joe, if we want to call them that, they are already involved in policy and shaping outcomes and letting them, letting their thoughts be known and all the rest of it. So to me, you've already got that step. The second thing is, many people will say that Parliament essentially is some form of citizens' assembly because we go out, we involve ourselves in the, general election or local election or whatever. And the very point being that, you know what, in my general life, I've got better things to do than think about X, Y and Z. Yes. So I've voted you, off you go, and I can interact with you. If I'm in your constituency, I can get in touch, email you, whatever. So isn't this just a form of kind of book passing?
I can see in debating terms why you might say that, why one might say that. But, there's a lot of things currently wrong with our democracy, right? We don't have proportional representation. Good. I disagree, Daniel. I think there's too many votes discounted in this country.
Not discounted. Every vote counts.
Well, it doesn't. There's a disagreement about that, actually, because loads of votes in seats where one MP's got a massive majority, don't count, right?
They do count.
But hang on. But to go back to, Michelle, your question, I think that it is in addition to Parliament, and in Ireland, some very difficult constitutional issues have benefited from this system. It still
like
comes
abortion
back,
and things like that.
Yeah, back to abortion, and there's the live discussions now about more constitutional reform. I think there are elements of this that are worth looking at, because I think what people of all politics do agree is there's a lot of disillusionment with politics and people feel that their voice doesn't matter. I mean, don't we?
But then, I mean...
Well, look. The way, as I understand it, the way it works in Ireland, you have a panel randomly selected of 99 persons.
Yeah.
Plus a chair.
Plus an independent some moderator to
chair,
manage and the whole thing. What do the rest of the country do while these 99 persons are deliberating on their behalf? These 99 persons who haven't been elected, who have no mandate for what they're discussing, who are filling in the details of a policy that people might well not agree with or might want to have a say on. And yet, on the other hand, they're being asked to vote for their MP, their TDs, as they are in Ireland, to vote for their TDs, to sit in Parliament and twiddle their thumbs while all this is going on. Of course, I understand, you know, any decision has to go through either a legislative process or a constitutional referendum in Ireland if it meets that standard, that threshold. Of course, I understand that happens, but by then you've shifted the debate so far in a particular direction that almost all of these decisions are preordained and very difficult to see them reversed. And that's how a lot of people see it in Ireland. And they have no say in it. They have no vote in it. They have no say in it. It's anti-democratic.
Look, there's very healthy disagreement around that. A lot of people like it, think it's been very beneficial. But, you know...
Are you one of those people? Because I've had a couple of people already from Ireland getting in touch, actually, not liking these setups at all. Liam says it's basically a cop-out by our government, unrepresentative and just a way of softening up the public for unpalatable measures. Martin, you say, Michelle, to the point which was made earlier, surely this is what the House of Commons is supposed to be, or it certainly was when it got set up. He says, doesn't this just show how Westminster has essentially forgotten its core purpose? Keith says only left-wing activists will volunteer for citizens' assemblies, and he says, his words, not mine, that's why Starmer's sneaky socialists are in favour of them.
Keith, that's a bit rude, mate, OK, saying that, because basically the idea...
What's rude about that?
Well, it's not... The idea is only socialists or lefties that are going to get involved in this. Actually, you'll find that some of the most involved people in communities, some of the people you hear most from on big planning permission campaigns are from the right of centre in politics. So Keith there doesn't sound like what one would call a swing voter. Sounds like he's in the made-up-his-mind box, and he can have a pop at Keir Starmer about that, but actually a lot of people think that more democracy and getting people more involved to help the political...
There's no democracy.
It's perfectly democratic.
There's no democracy.
It's as democratic as an unelected House of Lords, isn't it?
Where is the democracy?
Isn't it? It's as democratic as an unelected House of Lords. The unelected
House of Lords just scrutinises legislation mainly and actually, you know, improves it in detail, and everything that goes through it ends up having to be agreed by the Commons anyway.
I happen to agree with you, but,
so,
you should be welcoming.
So it's got a different role. This isn't about scrutinising legislation. This is about shifting on a debate and involving people for whom there's no accountability. It's deliberately random. There's no accountability on their part at all. And I'm not saying they're all going to be lefties, but I am saying that many of them are going to be engaged in those topics. I mean, if you got the call from, whoever allocates these things and says, you know, you've been picked for this panel and it's on railways, but your interest is actually in how to improve nature conservation, you might say, no, I'll give up on the railways one. I'll wait for the nature conservation one to come along because that's where I have my expertise. But you have your expertise almost certainly because you've got particular views on the topic.
And also, I mean, if this
you'll walk away from the random one.
If this is all about engagement, I imagine that a lot of people that are volunteering to do this kind of role, they're already politically engaged. If you're going to give up your weekends, often for just voluntary expense only, it's because you're politically engaged. So to me, you're not reaching this whole new breadth of people that you should be trying to engage. You're just talking and engaging with those already engaged. And speaking about engagement, Paddy says citizens' assemblies should only be a good idea if they replace the politicians that we have. And speaking of politicians, I was looking today, and I think we're up to 90 so far of the 650 sitting MPs have basically said that they won't run again for election.